Next on The Dialogue, we meet a visionary helping ensure every child has a chance of the future they deserve.
It's part of my job is to sit with children and to understand what's worrying them, but also what their hopes are. I always ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? What really matters to you? I'm Gwen Hines, I'm Chief Executive of Save the Children UK.
She's on a journey to shift the balance of power, driving more effective change for children and their communities.
They care about the climate crisis, they care about inequality, and we're calling this generation Hope, because they did say, we want a better life.
Gwen, welcome to The Dialogue. A big part of your role has been travelling around the Middle East region, hasn't it? And I know that you've been working with people in Qatar to help with the hunger crisis in the Horn of Africa region.
Save the Children is founded on a really simple principle, that children are children everywhere with the same rights. They get the best start in life, they get to grow up and be adults and achieve their potential. And so we've been working with some partners here who are supporting our work in the Horn of Africa, in East Africa, like Somalia, to bring funds, to bring influence, to help us to do work there to support children.
And the whole business of helping people is complex and difficult, isn't it? It's now just as important to collect partnerships as it used to be to collect cash.
It is. Of course, money's really important, but what's really important to us is that partnership. So, for example, one of our biggest partners, a commercial partner, is GSK, the pharmaceutical company. So I went with them to Kenya, for example. We were working with mothers to make sure that children, when they were born, that we provided a product that made sure to disinfect the umbilical cord. And that was using GSK technology to a really simple product that stopped babies dying when they were newborn.
And you've been doing this sort of work for 25 years, and you know it's your career, but I guess it's also unavoidably personal. And I believe there was a moment in Malawi with your family when the impact of malnutrition became really crystallised for you.
Yes, I was in Malawi with my children. And of course, as a mother, you're watching your children grow up. You're looking for the best for them. We had the privilege to go meet families in the community to see the struggles they were facing. I'd have in my head what a 4-year-old child should like. And there were children who were much smaller than that because they hadn't been fed. And just thinking about what I do to support my children to learn, you know, I make sure they get a good breakfast before they go off to school. And many, many children don't have that privilege. And so if they go to school hungry, if they have that malnutrition, they just can't achieve the same opportunities in life, and it really brings it home.
Trauma in childhood is something that Save the Children specifically targets, but how on earth do you go about trying to solve a problem, trying to, you know, address a challenge as difficult and serious as that?
Well, of course, the ideal is we prevent the trauma in the first place. So we try to make sure that we work to understand what are the risks to children, do what we can to work with them, their family, their community to prevent those risks. But of course it does happen too often. So if you think about the Ukraine war, we worked with children, we listened to them, and they told us about hiding in the basement for days. And just the fear they felt, not knowing what's going to happen. And you know, once you get out of that basement, you still need support. So something we do that I really like is these child-friendly spaces. Children come, they play. There are crayons, they can draw, they can just relax. But there are also psychologists there to provide very professional support to understand what's going on. And often children, because of trauma, they're quiet. They don't laugh, they don't really talk often. So it's trying to understand where they are. And you see the huge benefits a few months down the line when they become more themselves. So I've been to Lebanon, for example, and you meet children there who are having a tough situation. And I say to them, what do you do to relax? Because it's very hard for them to think about a normal life in the midst of a crisis, for example, an economic crisis. And they said to me, I like to play football. So just these really simple things, which again, my children like to do. My children like to relax. So how do we provide that same opportunity for children wherever they are?
Aid work can be tough work, can't it? How do your colleagues cope when they're experiencing these tough situations day to day?
It's true. It's a tough career that people do because they're very, very motivated to want to make a difference. And one of the things we do is we make sure that staff understand their own limits. It's important to take time out. Even in the midst of a crisis, we work again with psychologists to make sure that when people have returned from a particularly difficult situation, we screen them to understand the kind of trauma they've been through. Are they okay? You know, it's very much about knowing yourself and knowing what really makes a difference for you. For me, I love gardening. So at the end of a tough day, if I'm in the UK, I like to sit in my garden. And I like to just take time out, think about the bigger picture, rather than just thinking about the work that I've been doing that day.
Can you tell us a bit about some of the struggles that you've personally had to battle?
So I've been open, I've had periods of depression in the past. So I've been open with staff. But the reason I talk about it is because, of course, nobody is invincible. And anyone who thinks they are probably hasn't met a really tough challenge yet. So from childhood, I had periods of depression. And it was only later in life I realised they were related to hormones. And so, you know, they got worse as I got older. And for many, many years I hid it. So I would do the classic trick of, oh, I've got a bug today. You know, I'm finding things hard. And it took me a long time to actually own up to this.
The issues that we've spoken about often are complex, they're very serious, very distressing. There is no magic cure for suffering, but there is kind of a magic pill, isn't there?
If you think about the Horn of Africa at the moment and the famine, the hunger which is there, which has been going on for some time, one of the things that really helps is a simple pouch. It's known by a long, complicated term, but essentially it's peanut paste with oil, with sugar and with vitamins. And when you feed that to children, when they've gone beyond the stage where they're just hungry and they're beginning to get dangerously malnourished, it is magic. And you know, what we find is over a 2-week period, 90% of the children, that solves the problem. So just those kind of things, making sure they reach the parents, reach the kids at the right time, makes a huge, huge difference.
Amazing innovation. And you see so much suffering in your work. Is it possible to be hopeful? Are you optimistic about the future?
I'm definitely optimistic. I meet with children and you see the difference that a little bit of support can make to them. You talk to children, you know, one of the things we do a lot is we really listen to children. So when I'm in somewhere like Lebanon or somewhere like Malawi where I lived, it's part of my job is to sit with children and to understand what's worrying them, but also what their hopes are. So we interviewed 55,000 children from more than 40 countries. And we said to them, what do you want in the future? And we're calling this Generation Hope. Because they did say, we want a better life. And I think the magic is getting those children the support they need to have their own best life, but also to connect with other children. And that's what makes me really optimistic.
The magic of the Generation of Hope. Gwen, thanks so much for joining us on The Dialogue.
Thank you.